In this demo, we're going to take a look at putting together a time-lapse video using Lightroom and some extra presets. To start off, we need to put the presets that you've downloaded from the Sakai site into the Lightroom preset folder. I have the window open right now with the new presets, slideshow templates, and video presets. So to get those into Lightroom, go up to Lightroom and then Preferences, and select the Presets tab at the top. From there, click on Show Lightroom Presets folder. Now that opens up, so we'll drag that to the side, get everything situated, and then drag those two files, those two folders, into the Lightroom folder. So I'll click on that, hold Shift, click on the second one, and then drag those over onto Lightroom. So they should appear side by side with the existing presets that are in there. And here I have slideshow templates with those, and video presets, and that's what you should have. So you can close those Finder windows now and close the Preferences window in Lightroom. Now you have to restart Lightroom for it to see those presets. So quit Lightroom and then restart it. Now the presets will show up under the slideshow module, but we'll hold off on that for now. Now I'm ready to create the time lapse. First step is preparing the images. I've got a folder here with 315 shots of storm clouds moving across the sky, and that'll give me a decent sized time lapse video. So to start off to develop. Now my first step is to go into the crop tool and switch this over to 16:9 ratio, because the output movie is going to be a 16:9 ratio movie. So we'll click that preset, 16:9. You can drag this up and down if you need to, adjust it to fit the overall image. In this case, I'm just going to leave it at the center. So that's the crop finished. Now I'm going in and just working on the tone controls. This particular image is fairly flat and low contrast. So my goal here is to really pull the tones around and get a good level of black to white, almost overdoing it. So checking the blacks here, pulling those down, pushing the highlights up a little bit, even quite a bit. Pull the shadows down quite a bit too. And then push the whites up a bit. And that's a better range. And of course, apply a whole bunch of clarity. And a little bit more fine-tuning here. About -90 will do it for the blacks. So that's basic taken care of. I'm going to leave the rest alone until detail. There's a little bit of color noise present here, and I want to erase that. So about 15 points of color noise reduction takes care of that, and I'll do a little bit of luminance noise just to smooth things out a little bit. A little grain will be okay on this. It's going to get scaled down anyway for the final video, so it'll look pretty clean. And I think I'm also going to want to add a vignette. Well, that looks edgy. Alright, I think develop is done on this one. So what I'm going to do now is select the rest of the images, edit, select all. You notice that that first one remains selected first. That's the anchor. And I'm going to synchronize from that. So click sync, check all, and then synchronize. And that'll apply the settings. And we see the thumbnails updating. So now all the images have the same develop settings. I'm going to watch those update. All right, that looks good. And we also notice we've got the same exposure settings, ISO 80, same focal length, f-stop, and shutter speed. Those have all been consistent when I took the photos, and it's important to have that. If they're not the same, you'll get some strange fluctuations in brightness, maybe even some color shifts if the white balance isn't the same. Well, now I'm ready to create the video. I'll go into Slideshow, and on the template browser here, you can see I have my templates that I loaded in earlier. 10 frames per second is what I'm going to use for this, and that'll produce a 33-second movie. You can see that in the lower right corner where it says slide 1 of 315, 33 seconds. If I go to a 30 FPS time lapse, I get a 12-second video. And I want to go for something a little bit longer, so I am going to use the 10 frames per second time lapse preset. Now with all the images still selected, I'm going to go up to Slideshow, Export Video Slideshow. And I want to put that in the same folder as the original images. So I'll click through, find that, and I'll just give it the same name, the date. And sometimes you may want to include a number in there as well, but I'm just going to leave this with the date by itself. Now what I want to make sure is that the preset here matches my template, 10 frames per second on both of these. And you want to make sure those match, whether you're doing a 30-second frames per second or whatever. They should be the same, in this case 10 frames per second. We have to wait a while for the files to render. Depending on what kind of develop options I've put in, adding a vignette and noise reduction and a lot of exposure adjustments means these take a little bit longer to render. So Lightroom sits there, renders all the frames, and then saves the video. So we'll switch over to a high speed mode here. Of course, it's not really high speed. I have the advantage, I can speed up the video. And there we go. Alright, we're just about to the end of rendering the images, and then Lightroom will save the video. So that's done. I can go back to the library module, and I just need to synchronize the folder again. So I'll right-click or control-click on that folder and then synchronize folder. And I can see here I've got one new photo, which is actually a video, but I'll synchronize that, and Lightroom will import the new video, and it'll show up under the previous import. Now if I move my mouse across the icon here, it'll render for a second, and then it allows me to scrub through midpoint, endpoint, beginning of the video and see the frames kind of roughly. So if I double click on that, I can watch the whole video. And there you have it, a time-lapse video. Probably a 30 frames per second would look a lot smoother, but it would only be about 12 seconds long. It's kind of nice to have this at 30 seconds and see some of the details. So once you've watched it and confirmed that everything is working, this is the file to upload. Hopefully it's been helpful.